A new poll confirms the fracture within the Republican Party. 51% of Republicans see the Tea Party as its own separate entity and not part of the GOP. The Atlantic puts it this way, quote, "What was once an uneasy alliance between Tea Partiers and Republican loyalists is increasingly marked by hostility, and many on the right now want a divorce." Joining me now, Executive Director of the conservative advocacy group Public Notice, Gretchen Hamel, and Democratic strategist and former press secretary for the DCCC, we got Doug Thornell as well. Good Friday. Let's start with you here, Gretchen. Divorce, is there a group, is there a voice in moderate Republicans or conservatives here that are saying, let's get rid of that 3 dozen Tea Partiers that are causing this shutdown discussion?
You know, I think when you look at the party, both parties, you do have a side on the right, a far right, and a side on the far left. There's no reason to divorce those people. Those are part of the base. That is part of what the party system is, and they have to have that debate about what the conservatives want and what the liberals want and how to make those things meet in the middle in a negotiation table.
But isn't it dragging down the moderates in the Republican Party?
You know, I don't think that it's driving down the moderates in the Republican Party. I think the moderates have a great opportunity to work, and especially with the debate that we have coming up. I mean, look, we just prolonged this debate on spending, and we have a great opportunity, moderate Republicans, who have a lot of people on the left who are concerned about fiscal issues as well.
Doesn't make things easier, though, certainly. Doug, Senator Ted Cruz not ruling out another government shutdown, speaking about Tea Partiers here. What's the Democratic strategy to keep the heat level here low so some work can get done in D.C. as we work towards those 3 objectives the president would like to get done?
Well, I mean, hopefully, Ted Cruz and others will, step to the side and allow some of this work to get done. But to your earlier point, I mean, the fact is that the Tea Party right now and Ted Cruz are the heart, the brain, and the soul of the Republican Party, especially congressional Republicans. And that's really problematic because their popularity is dropping very quickly. Their antics so far have caused real damage to the Republican brand, if it could be damaged anymore. It's hurt Speaker Boehner. It's hurt the chances of them retaining the majority. And for establishment Republicans who want to maintain the majority, who want to compete in presidential elections, they are going to have to figure out how they regain control from Ted Cruz and the Tea Party, who are basically driving 100 per hour right now, blindfolded, and taking the party right off the cliff.
Well, here's a suggestion from President Obama. Take a listen.
You don't like a particular policy or a particular president? Then argue for your position. Go out there and win an election. Push to change it. But don't break it.
Gretchen?
What the president did yesterday is no different than what those Ted Cruz have done, and that is go out and stake a position. The president basically went out yesterday, he spiked the football, he drew a line, and he said, go win an election, and then that's what we'll talk. That's not leadership. That's not someone who's willing to come to the table.
It's really not the same, though, is it, Gretchen? Because he's just saying, look, if you'd like to make change, get elected.
No, and you know what? And these folks did get elected. And this is a democracy where we have debates about the importance of policy. And it's this who won and who lost in D.C. that has gotten us off of focusing on what the real problem is here. And that is a country that is about to go off a fiscal cliff.
Be pragmatic,
be pragmatic and come to the table with solutions instead of just saying, no, I'm not going to negotiate because you didn't win.
Well, first of all, Richard, the party that was taking the country off of the cliff were the Republicans back back a year ago, and the party that voted, 147 or so House Republicans voted against this deal a couple days ago. So, the president has all been about negotiations. House Democrats have been calling for a budget conference since April, and Republicans have resisted doing that. And I agree, this isn't about winning and losing, but the president's point is that he argued his policy ideas in the election of 2012, and he did win, and the American people supported his direction. And if Republicans want to push forward their agenda, they really are going to have to make a better argument. And they're going to have to start winning some national elections. And I think having Ted Cruz as the face of your party and having the Tea Party driving the car is really for them because the American people just simply don't buy the Tea Party agenda right now.
I want to move on to what former Governor Sarah Palin posted. She put this on her Facebook as well, said this on early Thursday. Quote, "Be energized. We're going to shake things up in 2014. Rest well tonight, for soon we must focus on important House and Senate races. Let's start with Kentucky, which happens to be awfully close to South Carolina, Tennessee, and Mississippi." Okay, Gretchen, she is clearly hinting here at some major Senate races. Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, those are two key Senate seats we're talking about.
Yeah, and you know, she should have a right to feel energized, because in politics there's an old saying that if your opponent is imploding, step aside and let them implode. And right now the Democrats have a big problem on their hands, and that's Obamacare. That's not meeting expectations and not allowing people to sign up like they promised.
But does this cannibalization, does this infighting really help when you're talking about the pragmatism that you need to go forward and congeal as a party?
I mean, when you talk about the pragmatics and congeal as a party, I think you're going to see the party come around together on certain issues. The American public is not happy with Obamacare, so there they go. They've got that they can work on. And the American public, 2-to-1, want there to be spending cuts. And with the fiscal debate coming up, they have a great opportunity to actually have the mantle of a fiscal conservative, principled discussion and debate and some real reforms.
Richard, I'd like to point out that this whole idea of Obamacare being unpopular is just simply not borne out by the polls. If you look at what the polls tell you right now, the public wants to see it implemented and fixed when necessary. And that's borne out by a number of different polls. And in fact, Obamacare has grown in popularity, and I would actually bet it's probably more popular than House Republicans right now.
Well,
so the reality is that, look, the House Republicans, if you look at what has occurred over the last 3 weeks, the generic ratings in these races for House Democrats versus Republicans, Democrats have expanded their lead. You saw 14 races change in the direction of House Democrats by the Cook report. So they're really, really struggling right now. And in the Senate, you've got a couple House Republicans who are starting to tank, who were supposed to be people who were going to compete in battleground Senate races, and right now they're not doing so well.
We've got to leave it there. I appreciate your time, Gretchen Hamel, as well as Doug Thornell. You guys have a great weekend ahead for you.
Thank you.
Checking the news feed.